Welcome to Dominate Listings. We are in an industry with tons of abundance. There's a lot of houses still being sold right now, and there's a lot of houses being bought. And the whole purpose of today is to help you guys sell more homes, get more listings, and dominate the listing market. Today, you're going to hear from rockstar real estate agents. Almost everybody here is an icon agent. What that means is that they are rock stars in this industry throughout the entire country. They know what they're doing. You have years and years and years of experience here. And so we are here to share with you the secrets that they have developed over the years, some of the failures to get there to help you guys sell more homes. I just want to thank, first of all, you guys for coming. I want to thank the Coaches Leadership Group, which is just a small group of people that are here to collaborate and share. After this event, every single one of these leaders is going to give a listing presentation in full depth from start to finish, right? Beginning to the end on how they get the listings and then how they present and then how they market them. So that is for the next, I think, 7 weeks at this same exact time, 1 to 2, it's just 1 hour. Make sure you guys mark your calendars for that. So Jason's our MC, Jason and his wife, Trish, are in Boulder. He is the engineer of the group, which I really, really love.
Thank you, Tanya. We've heard Tanya talking a little bit. She is a John Maxwell leadership coach. She is a disc coach, national team leader. She also runs triathlons for fun. So definitely don't want to take her off because she will kick your butt, both literally and figuratively. She is the glue that basically has brought this whole group together. So do me a favor, everyone, please put your hands together and welcome Tanya.
Thank you.
Of course, our keynote speaker.
Chris, thank you so much for coming. There is a QR code here. Everybody grab that QR code and grab Chris's new book, Dominant Thoughts. That book is going to teach you guys about mindset. So Chris is one of our friends. He comes on often to speak for us. And who better to ask to talk about listings? Chris has sold over 100 plus homes every single year for 30 plus years straight. Chris, I'm going to pass it over to you. Let us know, what we need to do to dominate listings.
When we talk about dominating listings, there's 2 things that come to mind. One is, what do we do to get the opportunities? And then how do we maximize or capitalize on those opportunities, right? So there's 2 pieces. What are we doing every day to meet someone who has the need or desire to sell their home? And then once we meet them, what are we doing to ensure that we walk out of there with a signed agreement?
So I have asked Chris Heller, the former CEO of Keller Williams, the current chief real estate officer of Ojo Labs. If you guys don't know what that is, it is an online platform that hands out leads to agents. Okay, so ojolabs.com.
I'm going to assume that no one on here has more listing opportunities than they know what to do with. And I think that's probably a safe assumption. And I hope if I'm wrong for any of you, way to go. So given that assumption, then the question is, what can we do to make sure that we're maximizing our opportunities? How do we get more listing opportunities? We got to find and talk to more people. It's that simple. I'm here in San Diego this week, and I'm sitting in the office of my real estate team. And I just finished meeting with the team. And I gave them news that they probably didn't want to hear. And the news I gave them was that the market's getting tougher, which means the hill that we're climbing is getting steeper. And you either put in more time, more energy, and go faster and work with more urgency, or you're going to start going backwards, because that's what happens when the hill gets steeper. The stronger the headwinds, the harder you have to charge into them. And that's not what people generally want to hear, but that's the truth. So when we focus into listings, it's the same thing. We have to be talking to more people now than ever before, because fewer people are selling now than ever before, right? We went from 6.4 million people selling homes last year to we could end up at under 4 million this year, around 4 million. That's a big decline in the number of people selling homes. So that means that we have to be talking to considerably more people. Who are we talking to? Like, two groups of people we know have already made the decision to sell: expired listings for sale by owners. Where else do we find sellers? We often find sellers in neighborhoods where someone just listed a home or just sold a home. And so we're spending time calling around, mailing, sending note cards to the people around the listings and sales that we see. If they aren't our listings and sales, we're borrowing someone else's listings and sales and calling the neighbors around those, door knocking, by whatever means necessary to be able to contact those people and see who else is thinking about making a move now that this neighbor's made a move, or who else is about to put their home on the market that hasn't pulled the trigger yet. Where else can we find people that are thinking about selling? Looking at people that have owned their home for a while, that are over the age of 75. They're saying, okay, wow, it's time. I got to make a move. I got to get closer to my kids, or I got to get, we're going into a different type of housing situation. Those are the obvious ones. Online, what are we talking about? Are we providing value that would be things of value to someone who's thinking about selling a home? Current market conditions. When we're talking to our past clients and our sphere of influence, are we letting them know that, for example, in San Diego right now, there's 50% less inventory on the market right now than there was a year ago at this time? Boy, if anyone was thinking about selling a home, would you rather do it when there's half the competition or twice the competition? And giving people information that they may not be able to find, or that if they Google, they aren't going to get the answer. That local information that we all have in our heads that would be of value to people. So the first thing is, like I said, talking to more people that are prospects or suspects that might be thinking about making a move. And then being able to answer a couple of basic questions. One of which is, why should they hire you? What do you do that's different? I can't tell you how many times when I was as an active agent, I stopped being an active agent in 2010. I still have my team. My team is here. I've seen them. This is the second time this year. First time I met half of them in person. But while I was an active agent prior to 2010, I can't tell you how many times I was in someone's kitchen or at their dining room table. And they said, yeah, the reason we decided to meet with you, or the reason or at the end of the presentation, this happen a lot. I always say, hey, why did you, I knew they interviewed multiple agents, say, hey, why did you choose, why are you hiring me right now? And I get things like, we asked all the agents the same question we asked you earlier, which is why we should hire you, or what do you do that's different? You're the only one that had an answer. Now think about that. That's like frightening. And if you can't answer in a sentence or two what's unique about your value proposition and what you do that's different, or what you do, or why someone should hire you, this goes for a seller or a buyer, right? If you're meeting a buyer, and in fact, this happened on my team last week because I heard about this in Slack, that buyer contacted us, but they're interviewing agents. They know exactly like the couple of neighborhoods they want to live in, the type of house they want. They're in the $2.5 to $3 million range, and they're interviewing agents to help them find that house. And I said to the buyer's agent on the team, I said, you have to be prepared to answer one question, and that is what we do that's different, or what we do that's going to give them an advantage over anyone else they hire. And if you can't do that, then quite frankly, do we deserve to earn the business? So now it may be your work ethic, it may be your focus, it may be your customer experience that you provide, it may be your integrity, whatever it is, isn't the critical thing. The critical thing is that you have a unique value proposition. And by unique, I mean unique to you, not unique to the world, right? You don't have to be the only person in the world that does this thing or has this thing or operates this way, but it has to be unique to you. So those are all the things that lead up to getting the opportunity. Then once you have the opportunity, how do you make sure that you win it, right? It's great when you get a referral and someone already trusts you and has a comfort level with you because of the trust and the comfort level they have with the person that referred them to you. But we can't live alone on those type of referrals, right? We don't get enough of those. So we're out there trying to find people to sell. When we're trying to find people or people that have already made the decision to sell, oftentimes they're interviewing multiple agents. And so what do you do to make sure that you're the agent that gets the listing? So I'll just share a couple of quick things that I used to always do. Number one, and by the way, I'm cool. If someone doesn't like these, doesn't agree with these, has heard something different, all good. All right. So don't worry about not agreeing with everything or even liking any of it. I always wanted to be the last agent. If they were interviewing multiple agents, I wanted to be the last one because it was just easier, right? I knew that if I was the last agent, there was no, hey, we have one more interview, wasn't going to be something I was going to have to overcome. Now, there were times where I had to overcome that, and I did, and I called the other agents and canceled their appointments and did it respectfully, but inside was having a lot of fun doing it. But it was just easier if I was the last one. And that way too, by the time they talk to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 agents, they're going to be really clear on what's important to them. So it's going to be a shorter conversation because we're just going to get down to the things that are most important to them. So that was one thing I did. Qualifying the appointments, super important. So before I ever get there, making sure like a doctor walking into an operating room, I knew what I was walking into, right? I wasn't going to be surprised if they thought their house was worth this and it was really worth this. I knew that when I got there. I knew that before I got there because I asked them, hey, when we meet, how much do you want to price your home or how much you want to list your home for? If they're talking to other agents, I would know that before I got there because that was one of my qualifying questions. Where they're removing, when they need to be there. What their house, how they rated their house on a scale of 1 to 10. And if they said it was an 8, hey, what would make it a 10? Well, we got the kitchen's a little dated, right? So I knew all that stuff before I got there, right? So I knew what I was walking into. I would also then make sure that they all got a pre-listing packet or information about me, about our team ahead of time. And I did that for 2 reasons. Number one, to pre-sell them, to make it less likely that they cancel before we get there, and to shorten the presentation because I'm giving them that information up front, and if they have questions about it. And then making sure that they got it, making sure that they looked at it. When we called to confirm the appointment, it was, hey, Jason, this is Chris. I'm the one you're meeting with tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Hey, calling for 2 reasons. Number one, does that time still work for you? Great. Number 2, did you get the information we sent and have you had a chance to look at? No, Chris, we've been really busy. I haven't looked at it. Okay, it's important you look at it before I get there. Will you be able to do that between now and 4 o'clock tomorrow? Oh, yeah, okay, we will. Yeah, here's why it's important. It's going to answer a lot of your questions, and it may raise some questions you have, and then we'll be able to address what's important to you and the questions you have when we need to make the best use of our time. Does that make sense? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, great. Thanks for reviewing that. Super excited to see you at 4 o'clock tomorrow and talk about how we can help you get your home sold and get you going to Columbus, Ohio, which is where I just decided Jason's moving to. And then when I get there, I'm walking, couple other things, always early, always get there 5 minutes early. Why do you get there 5 minutes early? Because every other agent they met with probably got there late because agents get the things late. And that's coming from the person who was late to this Zoom. Excuse me one sec. So you get there early. When you walk in, it's that firm handshake, looking them in the eye, big smile on your face, exuding confidence. And if you don't have it, you fake it till you do. And tell them how excited you are about helping them get their home sold. And then you go through your presentation. you have to have a presentation to be able to go through one. So, and that's a whole nother call probably. But the, you know, I used to always say, hey, hey, before we sit down, I'd like you to take a quick look at the home. Now, what do they always do? They say, oh yeah, great. Well, let us show you around. I always say, you know what? Actually, I'd like to go by myself and just look at your home through the eyes of a buyer. And then when I come back, if I have any questions, I'll ask you those. So I'll meet you back in the kitchen in a few minutes. Now, why did I do that? Number one, I didn't want a half-hour tour of their home, right? I know what to look for. I know where I can see where the dings in the walls are and the cobwebs in the corners and, you know, the size of the rooms and all that stuff. I don't need them telling me about the extra padding they put under the carpet in the master bedroom because it's, you know, makes it more luxurious, right? It doesn't change the value of the house. And then when I came back, I was always say, hey, the house is great. There's some recommendations I'm going to have. We'll go over those at the end. And then I would say, hey, can we sit here at the counter or at the table, right? I always want to be at the counter or table. If this is, now look, if we're doing any of these over Zoom, now this matters. We can talk about that, but I'm talking about a face-to-face meeting. They'd often say, hey, can you get you anything? I would always say yes. I'd love some water. If they didn't ask me, I'd say, hey, is it okay if you, I'd love a glass of water. I was always doing that because I wanted to get them used to agreeing with me, used to doing what I was going to recommend, used to saying, doing what I wanted them to do. And then I'd go through my presentation. And I had the mindset before I got there that I was not going to leave without a signature. I was not going to leave unless they physically threw me out of the house. And I was going to, if I had to overcome an objection 3 times, I'd overcome it 3 times. If I had to do it 13 times, I would do it 13 times. That was my mindset. And those were the things that I would do to make sure that. So
I would love for you to just share with these agents why you think it's important right now for agents to encourage sellers to pay the buyer's agent's commission.
For the 1% of the public, or the fraction of a percent of the public that is aware of any of the lawsuits or the Department of Justice investigations going on, or the efforts to decouple the commissions. If they say, hey, I read something that, you know, maybe sellers aren't paying the buyer's commission anymore, I would simply say the same thing we've always said, you know, is Mr. and Mrs. Seller, there are, I'll use San Diego right now. There's 2,800 homes on the market in San Diego. And any given buyer, any given agent might have 1 or 2 buyers, if that, at any given time. And that buyer is going to have a lot of choices, a lot of options. And that agent has that buyer, and that buyer represents their next commission check and their next ability to pay their credit card payment and their car payment and their house payment. All things being equal, if someone's trying to sell something and they're not offering to pay someone a commission to do it, is the person going to be that focused or have that much incentive to do it? If I'm selling something, I want to give people as much incentive as possible. And that's always been my philosophy. And I think, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if your goal is to get as much attention as you can on this home, as much exposure, then we should give the agents an incentive to bring buyers to us. And we say, well, what if the buyers find the house anyways and see it? Hey, look it. I'm not saying they won't show your home. But what I am saying is if they focus more on your home, or focus less on another home, because they're not paying a commission, you know, is that doing you any favors? So I would just, you know, it's a fine line. You have to be mindful of how you have the conversation, but it's just common sense. It's like, you know, these are 100% commission salespeople. If they don't have an incentive, are they going to really focus on it?
Everybody go order this book, read the whole thing. And if you're not a big reader, you can listen to it. Chris, we always appreciate you coming on. We always have so much fun. Write this date down, 12/15. If we can pull off enough people, Chris has agreed to come to Denver. So Chris, thank you so much. And we appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. And if anyone has any questions, you want to reach out, just message me on social media or any of the social media platforms.
So our next speaker is Tracy Franz. She is a 5-time icon, meaning that she's iconed and in the top 1% of all realtors, not once, not twice, but 5 times. And she is an absolute amazing realtor, also inducted into the RPAC Hall of Fame. So can you please put your hands together and give us a really, really warm welcome for Tracy?
All right, coming to you from Omaha, Nebraska, so right in the middle. So I am celebrating 19 years in the industry. What does that mean? That was 19 years of figuring out everything that does not work in this industry. So I like to say we've been able to really go through so many different paths of what other agents suggest doing. And it has really brought me to a point in my life where now it's down to a science. How do you work smarter and not harder? I mean, that is the key. And 19 years ago, when I first got in the industry, it was one of my mentors was like, all right, you list, you last. I was like, all right, you list, you last. What does that really mean? And after about 96 showings with one of my first buyers, I quickly found out why you would want to list to last. So I just found really becoming a master of listings would allow you to be a marketing billboard and produce so many other leads from that one lead instead of running ragged with buyers 24/7. And when it came down to a science 5 years ago, I had a gentleman by the name of Hank Avick. So I don't know if you guys know this name. If you don't know him, find him on social. He introduced me to a 36 to life program. And what this is not a CRM database, because I am personally a high I. And what does that mean? That means I hate details. And CRM databases, they're not my best friend, but I do utilize them. And so what Hank did is he had a 1-page training report. And in the last 5 years, this has changed my life. So I'm going to give you guys some quick takeaways of what I do in order to focus on referrals, referrals, referrals. I'm now 100% referral based, and I have one of the highest price points in Omaha, Nebraska on my average. And again, it's just coming down to consistency and figuring out what works for you, your personality. So when it comes to this human database, what I want you to do is I want you guys to visualize right now. If your phone would ring in the next 5 minutes, who is that client that is calling you to list their home? Who would you want that to be? What age do you want them to be? What stage of life do you want them to be at? Do you want them to be relocating from out of town? Do you want them to be a family that has maybe 3 kids? They're squeezing out of their split entry. They need a 2-story. Or is it maybe empty nesters? They're ready to get rid of that 2-story, their knees blown, and they need that ranch. I want you to picture right now, because when I came back from our last real estate conference, all they talked about was niching, niche, niche, niche. And I'll tell you, if you do not design your ideal client, you will not manifest it. They will not come to you. But if you visualize that exact person and you multiply that by 36, then in return, your year will be extremely successful. So if you got that one person of where they're at in their life, now I do want you to multiply that, and I want you to find 36 of those people in your life. Now, Facebook, with my age, that's kind of that's my baby. That's my baby. That's where, I'm comfortable. That's where all my people are at. That's who's following me. So on Facebook, I actually go and you can create a custom list. And so if you go to your home database on Facebook, you push home, you're going to go on the left side and you're going to find under friends. So you'll see your name, then you'll see friends, then it'll say a custom list. I want you to put all 36 people that you want to work with that would be your dream client in the next 12 months on that list. Now, when you got that in that custom list, this is a one-stop shop. You only got 5 minutes in the day to direct your time to Facebook. Otherwise, you get lost. So if you have this list designed, it keeps you focused. You have a time of the day that you go in there. Your first number I want you to write down on your little workbook is 50. So first we have our 36 people. We've created that list. They're all in one spot. Now I got 5 minutes to jump on there. I'm going to take that 36 list and I'm going to do quick 50 virtual high fives. What is that? It's a like. If I would go in there and if I do 50 likes once a day, that is 18,000 connections throughout the year just by 50 likes. Now, your next number, because I'm going to give you 5 numbers, your next number is going to be 20. 20, I want you to do handshakes. Have you ever walked in a room and somebody shook your hand and, maybe it was kind of soft and you're just like not really connecting with them? And then you walk in a room, somebody comes up, confidence, shake your hand. You're like, okay, I like you. I want to be around you more. So what I want you to do is think about 20 handshakes where, now they're not only seeing you or you're seeing them, you're just connecting deeper. It's more of an energy exchange. And so it's more of a comment, just commenting 20 times on 36 of those people's actual profile. Now, the next one, this is going to be 5. So now we're down to 5. This is going to be where this is more of a conversation. And your actual conversation, I want you to think about it where now you're asking a question. You're trying to create engagement. You're maybe making a comment, but then your last comment is a question in order to engage and get them to respond. So 5 of those a day. Now the last one, it's 1. Nothing too crazy. This is diving deeper. This is like a private message. This is actually knowing when you get off that conversation, I want you to know where they're at in life. Are they healthy? Are they down? Are they busy? Are they soul searching? Like just where are they at in their life and dive deeper. And by this human database, by following this 36 to life program, this has allowed me to focus on 36 home sales a year. These 36 home sales a year basically have resulted in my Icon Agent Awards. And I used to sell over 50 to 75 homes running ragged. Now I just focus on 36 because I don't need more. I get the price points up. I'm making what I need to make, and I got it down to a science. And so that 36 to life, just using that human database, I mean, it has been just a game changer, and it's a one-stop shop. Now, the next one I want to dive into, and Hank also, once a month, he's going to be doing a deep dive into this 36 to life program. It just happens. It's the 3rd Thursday of every month. So I do have a link I can share. If you'd like to do a deep dive, it will actually train you and just really go into depth as far as just, how to capitalize on it. All right. The next one is incentives and inspire your referrals. At one point I had FOMO with Zillow. I had to go and buy my zip codes, and I'm like, oh, what's going on with Zillow? I got to buy these. I'd be sitting at dinner and the phone would ring and I know what I'm paying per month and I know I can't let that lead go. That was not the life I wanted to live. I did not want to just have to pop up and have to go meet a stranger. My safety was at jeopardy. I mean, just my life, my balance. I had no control. Where you work this 36 to life, now you're in control. You know their schedule and creates so much more balance. But like with if you do like relocation and you're paying out those huge percentages at the end, I'm cheap, I'm thrifty. That's just who I am. I can't stomach giving out those huge referrals at the end. I want to get my own leads because I want that money in my pockets, not anybody else's pockets. So what I've basically designed is a give back program. This give back program, this is designed for whoever's in front of me. If they're a teacher, it's a teacher give back program. You're going to get $500 towards your closing costs, towards a home warranty, whatever you want, because you are in education and you are giving back. Now, if I'm in front of a firefighter, it's a firefighter give back program. You're going to get $500 to go to your choice because thank you for serving. Whatever they are into, whatever they are engaged in or their profession, or a lot of times what I'll do too is I have 3 kids. I coach, I'm on the move. I want to work with all those families. That's who I'm around. That's who I like. That's my age group. And so I have done like an actual give back program for all youth sports. My softball program, it takes up a lot of time, but I have about 2,000 people in the database that I'm able to do a softball give back program where I will give them $500 towards their year if they refer their grandma, their aunt, their kid. Oh, we know youth sports are getting up there. Man, those grandmas, they start coming because those parents, they're like, Tracy, Tracy. And it's like, you're helping them, you're giving back. And it's one of those where, I mean, instead of 35%, pick your own rate, but that has been huge. And of course, you have to be a walking billboard. So when I'm going into the good old softball complex, we go in with like a march. It's a march with coolers. So it is one of those where I know I'm going to be at that softball complex. I know I'm going to be there probably for 10 hours. So why not have EXP coolers with these girls stomping, walking all around, and being a marketing billboard for me? So I just really challenge you, where if it's church, if it's, youth groups, if it's youth programs, whatever you're into, even if it's like a high school band, think of how many people are in that and how you can create this program and then just become a marketing billboard. I have next fall, I actually have somebody from a different brokerage that is going to be within our same organization. So I may be ordering 1,000 t-shirts because I want them to be wearing my logo. So I just challenge you guys all. There is a way to do 100% referrals, and all it is being consistent, designing that client, and really just figure out what they want, figure out what their weaknesses are, figure out what are they looking for in value, and just provide it. And in return, 10x, that's what I'm after. So 5 down, 5 more to go. Thanks for having me on, you guys.
Woohoo, Tracy, that was absolutely amazing. So I want to see in the chat right now, how many people actually use avatars and create their ideal client or the ideal person they're trying to attract? How many of you do this? I'm seeing a couple. All right, that is amazing. That is, the avatar piece, can't stress how important that is. So if you don't know what you're looking for, how do you know you're going to find it? So enough about coaching. I want to keep this going and move on to the next person. So I'm going to be introducing Christopher Nolan next. He is an Icon agent, has recently relocated to Vero Beach, Florida, and is running a large team down there. For those of you from New York, you may actually recognize his accent. So please put it together and let's introduce Christopher Nolan. Woohoo! Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much. And Tracy, you were awesome. And it's going to be hard to follow behind you. But Tracy brings up a lot of really great points. And working with those referrals, absolutely. I mean, like she said, they're warm. You can really work with what you have or, work with people that you like. Now, the thing about it is, for anybody that doesn't know my background, I came I was active duty Marine Corps, and then with the U.S. Capitol Police prior to coming to real estate. So when I decided to step into this arena, I did not have a database, and I started in Maryland, a database. At that time, I knew 3 people in my county, okay? And that's the way I had kept it because of what I was doing. So I had to get out there and create some of the momentum. And we did that through we started with the online lead gen, okay? And we started to go with the online lead gen and push forward until we held the number 3 team spot in the area, all right? And then, of course, I decided to relocate, come on down here to Florida, and had to do it again. Again, I thought I had a database here because I have family and friends that live here, but it turns out they're all my parents' age and above, and they were in those forever homes. So again, that sphere that I thought I had to rebuild, and I did that with the online lead gen portion. Now, when Tracy was talking about like buying the zip codes and the with Zillow and all that stuff, I know people do that, and that's why I have up here, choose your weapon. Right? You have to choose where you want to go for it. I have never been a fan of choosing a zip code with Zillow, right? Because you have to sign a contract. I think it's like 6 months or something like that. You buy a zip code, 32958, whatever it is, and then you're stuck with that zip code, and whatever comes out of it, comes out of it. I have always been more deliberate with the search engine optimization, the SEO, targeting, people with using keywords and things like that. And you have to really sit back and take a personal account of what it is like your skill sets are. Some of you are going to be a little more computer savvy than others. Now, I'm not computer savvy by nature. I had to learn all this stuff, but I was willing to take that time. Some of you guys are not going to want to do that. Then there are programs, whether it's Zillow, Realtor.com, things like that you can do. But if you do it right and you combine it with a good CRM, almost everybody here is with EXP, I think. For those of you that are not, I'm sure your brokerage provides some sort of CRM. A lot of the CRMs have components that you can utilize for this aspect. All right. So what you really need to do is take advantage of the classes that you guys have and get involved in it. If you have KV Core, which is what a lot of us are working off of, there are a lot of systems within here to target based on, keywords, areas, and they'll let you adjust based on what's going on. If I'm in an area and I'm not getting any leads for 2-3 months, I'm not going to continue to pay for that location. All right. Now, when I adjust, I'm going to come on back and get it to another area. I have people that I work with that I've recently started to learn how to actually determine the who is looking and what keywords are getting searched. So then I start to adjust my ads according to that. Now, once I do that, the end game is to get like Tracy and turn those people into referrals, right? It doesn't matter how you get them, whether it's at the field with your kids. Guys, I'm 48 years old. I don't have any little kids. If I show up at a kid's football field, it's going to just seem creepy. All right, so I got to look at different routes, right? So we start here and we go on from there. So once we do that, right, I look at it a lot like building a house, right? This is an ongoing process, right? I built out my templates, my email templates, so I don't have to keep writing the same template, same email over and over again. I have them all saved. So when I meet somebody for the first time, bam, they get the email. Hey, thanks for, checking out my site. Thanks for, meeting me, yesterday, whatever it is. And it's set to be automatic, but it takes time. All right. So make sure that you find a database and a lead source that you enjoy, that you find easy to work with, because if it's difficult and it's clunky, you are not going to use it. All right. There's a ton of them out there. Some of them have different pros and cons. All right. But you have to find the one that makes the most sense to you. All right. Even if you're within the EXP, if KV Core is not working or it's too clunky, I suggest taking the classes since it's already provided to you. All right. But if it's not working for you, there are other great options out there. For one of the things that I did a while back was I became a coach with Brian Buffini. Right. Well, when you become a coach with Brian Buffini, he gives you the CRM for free. So there are avenues that you guys can take that will keep your costs down. All right. So once you do that, you get those templates, you start to put them into your campaigns, and then you can automate them. Right. In KV Core, most of you guys know them, we call them tags. There's labels, depending on the CRM, different ways that you can start these things and get them to start going out. So this stuff is actually working on your behalf in the background. Okay, so I hope that makes sense there. So once you set that stuff up and you start to build the automations, and depending on what happens, it'll actually change the setup. It will actually make it more feel more like it's a real conversation. I've had conversations with people that unfortunately I didn't do the right thing, and maybe I missed them, and it went on a few hours. They thought they were having a conversation with me because I already set those things up. All right. And then the biggest thing is while I'm saying that, the biggest thing is to get to these leads as fast as possible. If you're going to employ the online lead gen, which is a great way if you're building your business, once you get to a level like Tracy and it's all 100% referral, then you build on that. But while you're building your online presence, you need to make sure that you're responding to these people as fast as possible. They say that it drops your chances by 95% after the first 5 minutes. Okay. Now, I'm not saying don't follow up if you missed them by 5 minutes. Still follow up. Okay. I've closed leads that have been in my system for over 2,000 days before, just by continuously following up. I'm not calling them every day, but I have those drip campaigns in place so that when the time is right, they will come back around. All right. So follow up, set the reminders, use your calendar. And I know it doesn't sound all that sexy, but guys, this is a business and you have to treat it as a business. And my business, for anybody that knows me, is I am very systematic about the way I do it, and I just knock it down. I want to get back. I work a lot of hours, but I want to get back to having my life, riding my motorcycle, getting out, doing all my veteran stuff that I do, and so on and so forth. All right. And that's really the gist of it, guys. Don't look for online lead gen to be wild and crazy and exciting. It's not. I hate to say it, it's not, but it will generate a business that you can sustain for a long period of time. All right. I hope that helps, and thank you so much, guys. If you have anything, let me know. Feel free to send me a message. Back to you, Jason.
Let's unmute. That always helps. Really appreciate that, Christopher. Now, did everyone get lots of stuff out of that? Was that really a huge amount of gold that y'all got there? Come on, let's put it together. All right. So moving on, our next person is Gina Semnuk. Gina is more than just a realtor, more than a wife. She is a lifestyle consultant dedicated to helping people chase their real estate dreams. She has been in the business for 30 plus years. So without much further ado, please give a very warm welcome all the way from Central Ontario, Gina. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Great to see everyone here. Got to throw that out, being up here in Canada. Yeah, so today what I am going to cover, which follows up great with Tracy and Christopher, is cold calling. So like Christopher was saying, you've got your online leads, and a lot of people are hesitant to make that call, but just make that call and phone these people, because I'm telling you right now, practice makes perfect. And that's where you're going to build that confidence, and you are going to go to that next level. So when you're making those calls to people, you don't know who they are, but that's okay, because in life, we never knew who our neighbors were and the person at the grocery store. So we need to get to know that person. So before you make those calls, there's a few things that you really need to take into account. And one of them is mindset. Your mindset is really key. So you need to make sure that you're positive when you're going to be making those calls. You're enthusiastic, you're smiling, and you're standing up, and you're just ready to take on these calls. And then, like I said, practice makes perfect. It is a way of building your confidence and taking you to that next level. Some people prefer to just call family and friends because they know them, or business relations. Other people prefer the cold calls because they really don't even know that person. So they're okay with that, and some do both. But do what works for you, but the cold calling you need if you have those online lead generations coming into you. When you make those calls, and you could get a bad call, someone may not be in the right mood or that. And that's because when you're making those calls, you don't know what type of day that they're having. So you just have to be able to shake that off, say, okay, next, and carry on, right? And also, when it comes to cold calling and you've got those leads coming in, that's money. So like Christopher was saying, if you can get to them within the first like 5 minutes of that call coming into your lead generation system, that's great. But if you can't, it's so important to turn around and time block times that you are going to call people. So set an hour to 2 hours a day in your schedule, mix it up, do days, afternoons, evenings, and weekends. Because if you're just always calling like 9 till 12 during the day, and you're just not getting this person on the phone, then what do you think it is? They're probably at work. So start trying them in the evenings and start trying them on the weekends. So like I said, just pick up that phone and just make that call. The next point, own the script. So there are so many scripts out there when it comes to cold calling, and there's so many scripts out there that handle certain objections. Every script has a purpose. And what I tend to do with those scripts is I read them through and I understand what the purpose and what I'm learning from that script. And I like to make that script my own, because when I'm on the call, I want to be authentic. I want to build rapport with those people, but at the same time, I don't change the script too much because I want to keep its purpose and its goal behind what that script is for. So, when people are turning around saying the market's terrible, or, interest has gone up, and that you want to be able to talk to them about that. You're also on the phone because you don't know that person. So you've got some type of agenda. So why are they on the system? So I actually have some key points here that I want people to take down. That I have the letters LPMAMA. So when I get someone on the phone, I have certain key points that I want to make sure that I get from them. One is location. The next is price. What's their motivation? You can ask them at that time if they are dealing with an agent at that time. And do they need a mortgage? And then the last one and the most critical one is setting the appointment. So when I get onto the phone with them, I'm going through an introductory script. I can go through that with you, and then I'm hitting those points. So if you're using an online lead generation, my script usually starts like this. Hi, it's Gina calling from the home search site you're using to look at homes in the, let's say, Atlanta, Georgia area. Sorry, I just got thrown off track there. It's Gina calling from the home search site that you're using to look at homes in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Just wanting to know if you're considering a move in the next 3 to 6 months, or if you're browsing at the moment. And that's what I say at that time. And if they say I'm just browsing at the moment, I come back with, that's great. That's exactly what our site is for. What prompted your browse? And then I start leading into location, price, motivation, all of those key points that I was talking about. If they do have a reason and they start saying, well, it's retirement, or, we want to move closer to our kids, it's the same thing. Hit that location, price, motivation, and using on those lead generations or whatever real estate system that you're on, you can then start turning around and scoping searches more towards what they're looking for. And the whole idea behind making these cold calls is you do want to build trust, rapport, and most of all is set that appointment with that person that you're speaking to on the phone. There are lots of scripts out there. So yeah, you can turn around, find them, read them, and go through them. And the most important thing is to be able to handle objections, know the market, know the area, and, because people will have questions about that. The last one is show me the money. So you've got all these online leads, and now you're sitting there going, what do I do with them? And a good CRM is really important. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. So that's key that that's what that actually stands for. And where the money is in the follow-up. So you've got those online leads. Just don't call them once or twice. Call them until you get connected with them. Or if you have their email through the online lead generation that you have, then reach out with them with an email. and a purposeful email, just asking them how their search is going. And if you then even followed up with them and spoke to them on the phone and you know what they're looking for and you see this perfect house, send it to them. I basically get most of my reconnections with my follow-up online leads is by putting a property in front of them, saying, I've just found the great property for you. How does this look? And most of the time they reply back saying, well, it's not quite in the area. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Or they say, yeah, this is great. Let's go have a look at it. I've also had leads on the system. I had one that was 696 days that they reached out to me just from my platform, connecting and following up, that they reached out to me and wanted to turn around and start looking at homes. And then we turned around and ended up putting in an offer and purchasing the home. You never know when that online lead, they may say they're a year or two out from wanting to buy, that all of a sudden they call you and say, no, you know what, I'm ready to retire, I'm ready to move, or family situations come up, I need to make that move now. The whole idea is to follow up, to stay in touch and be top of mind with these people. And anytime that you can bring value to these people, it's key. So if they see a house and they're like, well, we're interested in it, but we want to know this, this, and this. And if you can come back and bring them value back on that home, like they may want to know how old the roof is, the windows, the doors. Anytime that you can bring value, you are now going to be following up, which is what you need to do, and being top of mind. So many people have said to me, well, I've turned around and come back to you because you're always staying in touch. And I have a great CRM system for that, that is always reaching out and touching them in certain ways, and me personally, myself. And one of the last important things was show me the money is time block for your calls. Put it in your calendar, because for most people, if it's not in your calendar or you haven't scheduled for it, then it doesn't exist and you don't put the time aside for it. You need to really protect the time and start calling people. So yeah, so those are my little quick tips on cold calling. And just wanted to know, does anybody have any questions with regards to that? All right then, back to you, Jason. So she's asking how many calls do you need to call at least to get them to call. So our scope is usually anywhere from, we've made at least 6 to 8 calls. We do not leave a message, because that's another extremely important point is, do you know how many times I call someone, I don't leave a message and I hang up and they call me back? Oh, this is Jennifer. I just missed a call from this number. And I start right into my script. Oh, it's Gina calling from the home search site that you were using. Because if I don't recognize who Jennifer is, obviously she was a lead that I just called. And I just run into that script that I have and then just carry on from there. And then usually after that point, I may start leaving them some phone calls to reach back out to me.
Great.
Yeah. So yeah, I tried to call them, but like they didn't answer, so I don't know what to do.
And if you have their emails, you can start reaching out through emails. But most of the time, for about the first, like I said, 6 to 8 phone calls, I don't leave a message. I turn around and they'll get curious sooner or later who this person is calling, and they will call you back.
Great. Thank you so much.
That's amazing. Thank you, Gina. So
Hey,
how
you're
many
welcome.
people use something like the LP Mama, either for buyers or sellers? Let's see, either the raised hand or reactions. Yeah, I actually use that for buyers. I actually have the form. It's called the LP Mama. Exact same thing. Does the exact same thing. So it's a super, super powerful tool. If you guys want a copy of what I use, it's a really ugly photocopy that's been scanned I don't know how many times. Be happy to share it. Drop your email in the chat and we'll make sure you get a copy of it. So without much further ado, I want to move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is actually Gina's husband, Gary. So also a Canadian. He also is more than just a realtor. So with that, having been in the industry for also 30 years, I'm going to let Gary take it away.
Hey, Jason, everybody. Thank you for having us here today. It's a really great opportunity, and the shares from everybody, I think are such great nuggets of gold and wisdom. I've either, come to the conclusion through hearing them all that I've either learned that I'm doing the right things by virtue of them doing the same things and their success, or it's giving me the opportunity to make changes to do things better. So, I think what's always critical when you come to these types of events, whether you're paying or free or online or in person, just always go there with a beginner's mind, right? And always be humble and listen. And I think that, is really critical to what we get to take away from these. And, when I move into what I'm talking about here in preparation, Chris talked about in the beginning about confidence. And I think more than anything, that is one of the first things you really have to work on in preparation for your career, whether you're a day in or like us. Gina and I have been in this business for 12 years, formerly as custom home builders for 30 plus years. It's the preparation that we come in with. And, I learned very early in my career to always, and I'm a high D personality and an I type personality. So details are not necessarily my best friend. I just want to get the meat and potatoes and get going. But I've come to learn that one of the biggest things is preparation, and preparation is key. So when I go to do my class on the listing presentation, and or even today, everybody that's left their emails and other things, I am happy to send out some of the stuff that we use so that we can always make sure that our preparation is set out and, as best in control as possible. So for us, part of our preparation is having a really good listing presentation and buyer presentation. And, on the listing side of things, which is something that we've been more listing heavy than buyer heavy, and that whole list to last. And I'm going to talk about that too, the list to last side of things, and just throw a little bit of a flip spin on that. We make sure that when we get on the phone with somebody, and Gina and I work in a nurturing type of environment, we do a lot of online lead generation. So we're very dialed into the practice of what we're doing every day when it comes to the dials, getting people on the phone, the conversation base, and then moving into getting an appointment or a follow-up, right? Because even for us, a follow-up call or text or email is kind of an appointment, even though some may say it's not. If I've got somebody engaging and we can at least get to the point in that whole LP Mama where I'm asking for an appointment, even if that's at a follow-up, it's critical to always think about that next step and having an agenda. And that's where the preparation always comes into effect. So when we're dealing with, I'm just going to move into the listing side of things, a potential seller, I always make sure that we're going through some very critical questions. And that's just asking from A to Z, why are they selling right now? Are they motivated? Chris brought up a lot of those points. And it's something that we go through so that prior to the appointment, we get to ask some critical questions, gain some critical information. And that leads to us having better confidence in what we do, right? Because we've now got a system around what we do. And then the confidence comes into play. So we go through a lot of A to Z questions, get them to the place of, we pre-qualify them, right? Which is what I'm going to move into next. And then in the pre-qualification side of what we do, we definitely want to know that they're motivated to sell. I'm not interested, frankly, at this point in my career, putting for sale signs on people's properties to watch them, get spider webs and everything else on them and not a sold sign. That's one of the privileges as a realtor. We get to prepay our sales, right? We have to invest in our sales to be able to get sold signs on them. So I think, for me, what's really critical is always making sure the pre-qualification side is there, and we ask very critical questions around that. I think, you may feel some hesitance in the beginning of a career if you're on the front side of your career to ask those certain things, but it's really critical that you make sure that you're really pre-qualifying your client, asking motivation, where they're going, are they selling to buy, are they stepping out, especially when we go into a market shift like we potentially are. It's one of those times that in Canada, we're actually in a pretty heavy market shift. not in favor of the selling side of the proposition. And I'll expand on that in a bit, but that allows us to really know, firstly, through pre-qualification, do we even want them as a client? Because the reality is, at the end of the day, if they're not coachable and or realistic to what the market's doing, it's going to be a very turbulent ride, right? It's like getting on an airplane and flying through heavy turbulence. It's scary. It's no fun. Nobody wins. You just pray to God you land, right? And, that's the long and short of even what listings can be like when things aren't done well or going well. So motivation, is the next part I want to talk about. And, in the motivation side of what we do, those are the questions I bring to the table. What, by when, and where are they looking to go? What, do they have to sell for, right? What are the reasons? Because, we need to know, and it often can feel very invasive for people. And I tell them that this is nothing more than information gathering, so we can give them the best answers with regards to whether or not, they should list right now or possibly wait for some, changes in the market, the dynamic of their property. And, if there's motivation to get there, I want to make sure they're motivated to be in the market, not behind the market. Especially, I can't speak to what some of you are going through in the States. There are pockets that are still doing quite well and some that are starting to soften and some are correcting, but definitely in Ontario, we're in a heavy correction here. We've already seen about a 15% price correction and more in areas this year. So for us, motivation is critical, because if I tell you that, your house, we have a conversation on the phone and I ask you where you think the value of your house is, and you say, oh, you know what, I see houses for sale for 1.2, 1.3 million. I always have to sort of say, well, that's also a wish list, right? If it's not sold, that's kind of a wish price. It doesn't necessarily dictate that that's the actual value of a house. So I typically do my homework when I already know I'm talking to somebody. I already know usually where they live and or the area. So we start to do a little background so we can make sure that we are honed in on their motivation. And with that, if they tell me that, well, the neighbor's house is listed for 1.2, it's been on the market for a while, this, that, and the other, those are kind of indicative, tips of the house being likely overpriced. So I then pull up, my comparables and talk about history, because that's what's really important, is the houses that sold or have pending closings, because it gives us a benchmark as to where the market is and how to coach them. Because if I'm saying or seeing that a property is in the, say, $1 million range, and they're saying, well, the neighbor's up for 1.2, I'd really like to get that. That's a big red flag for me based on experience that I'm already going to have some difficulties potentially with this client. So we move right away into putting facts in them, and that's where preparation again is key. So you're working in a circle here, through making sure that we've got a lot of that listing information that, the sold information or history that doesn't lie. It allows us to really coach them to a place of, hey, it's great. We all would love to get, $10 million for our houses. However, the market is just not going to bear that right now. So, do you feel if we can get you in the range of where the market is right now, that that's satisfactory for you? And, that very clearly gives us a yes or no answer. There usually is no maybe or we'll see. They definitely know what they want out of this, right? Most of us run budgets and things, and we're selling for a reason, and that's usually to either size up, size down, retire, step out of the market. But most often it's usually someone sizing up more than they're sizing down, and with that they need as many dollars as possible to buy into the next side of the market that they're going to. And with that, we run into, this is when we get the motivation, and this is when I can decide if I actually want this listing. So I'm going to take 1 second and just talk about that whole list to last idea and premise, and put a bit of a different spin on it. And so for us, we've always been listing heavy as agents on our team. And, I do believe in the list to last mentality. You want to be an employer versus being an employee. No offense to anybody. I'm an entrepreneur. I love being an employer. And so with the list to last, the one thing I definitely know that got us in trouble, because we went through a correction in 2017 here that was pretty swift and pretty heavy for about a year and a half until the front side of COVID, when things started to really, really pick up again. So in the course of about 3 years, sorry, I went out of tune there. So in 2017, we saw a market correction that was quite substantial, and then listings became very toxic in certain areas in Ontario, and they were extremely hard to get sold, especially when they were already over the market, and everybody had a feeling that they were going to see the market bounce back quickly, and it didn't for a year and a half. So what I found was we ended up more often than not fired and or expired. And, that's just never a great place to be when it's an us and them, right? Us against the sellers, which is what we faced a lot of. So we really spent a lot of time learning through that, how to coach people, because I equate it to like having a firstborn child versus a secondborn child. Firstborn child, you don't know what to do with it. You just know it's here and it needs to be fed and it needs clean diapers and a bath every now and then. And, your secondborn child, you tend to not worry about as much. It's like, okay, it fell down. It's all right. Pick it up, wash it off, move on. And, that taught us a lot, that whole period of time. So, for us, what we do in that now is that I make sure, and I train my team to this, if people are not coachable to what we're saying, they may not be your best clients, and you have to decide, do you want to take that business? So that again is, wrapping up the whole side of this. Preparation is key. Pre-qualify the client, motivation, especially when we're going into a shifting market. So I do agree, you definitely want to list to last, because it is the differentiator between being an employer and employee. But you also know you have to get a certain dollar for your product or you go out of business, right? And you have to get sold signs on the properties. Maybe we can move on to the next slide there, Jason. So being in control, right? That's something that, we take great pride in. And I listened to Chris in the beginning talk about, when you get out to the house. So, we'll go past the point that, we've done the whole motivation, prep is key, all of that stuff. We've got the appointment. What I always do is, because we are in a very digital environment, we've completely digitized everything we do. So whether or not we're dealing with an 80-year-old or an 18-year-old, we can facilitate, the meeting digitally or in paper, and we make sure that everything is going out to them preemptive of that meeting. So when we get there with them, and I always drop little bombs in, stuff that we're going to talk about, so that it causes them to have a curiosity factor, right? So that when they know I'm coming out tomorrow, the day after, whenever it's going to be, that I want to give them enough lead-in information to cause them to look at what I'm sending to them, because not everybody's a detail person. So I want to make sure they at least look through some of it. And the critical parts of that are, just making sure that they know what we do, some of our value proposition before we even get into our value proposition. So it causes them to ask me about that, and we face it head on and, move into why we potentially are the best people for them. So by being in control, that means also too, in our community, I know who my competing realtors are, right? I know their strengths, their weaknesses. We don't go there with any intention of defamation of anybody, but we definitely know, for the most part, in the communities we work in, who's likely going to be getting an appointment call as well as us. And that way we can really position ourselves to be in control. And when we go to the properties, a couple of critical things, Chris, brought it up. I kind of leave it as an either or. When we do a walkthrough on a house, I often like to be able to walk through and not have them with me, because it gives a very unbiased opinion of the house, right? That I can, not be swayed or influenced by them and or have awkward conversations. And frankly, it takes a long time. If they're, chatty Cathy's, you could be there an hour just walking through the house before you even get to sit down at the table. And, to his point too about that, being in control, I always like to be at a table. I've found it, if we go to an area in a living room, couches, chairs, things like that, it's often very awkward because you can't do your presentation where you're facing them, you're across from them. You don't have any place, to put your computer or paperwork, however you're showing up. So I tend to encourage to want to be right across from them. And, we use a lot of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. So we're mirror and matching, doing a lot of what they do. If they turn sideways, we turn sideways. If they put their hand on their chin, we put our hand on our chin, scratch their ear. You know, we mimic a lot of what they do. And something I also do very early when I'm in a listing appointment is to look around the house, right, and find a theme. And that's where part of your value proposition comes in. And, you know, we've done this extremely well over the years, we feel, and won a lot of business because of it, because almost everybody has something in their house that is repetition, right? Or repetitious. So it's artwork, jewelry, clothing, colors. You know, there's something that's in the house that's always repetitive that means something to them because it brings joy to them. It's all over the house. And I tend to hone in on that. And we always ask when I'm at the meeting, no matter how it's going, I take a certain point and say, so I noticed, you know, you have these puffin birds sitting all over your house on your shelves and this, that, and the other. And you know, tell me about that. They must mean something to you, even if it's artwork, if they're kids. And they will just offload completely, right? Because now they've got a connection to you and it's something that they feel you've now paid attention to them, and they spill out their heart of gold on that. And, you know, it's a great opportunity. It really helps us influence the conversation, build connection and rapport with the people so that as we move through this now, and we can get to a successful sale and closing, you also know what you can buy them for closing gifts, right? If you're really paying attention to how they live, it's pretty easy to figure out what's going to make them happy as you close a sale with them. Because that's one of the big things that I find agents are always asking. I don't know what to get my clients. What do I get? Well, pay attention when you're in their house. It's pretty straightforward, and you're going to see a lot of clues. Pricing, you know, pretty obvious, guys. Know your inventory. So do it in a couple of different ways. Go to open houses. Go do visits, you know, go out, book appointments, go through, even if you don't have your own listings or buyers, go and just book buyer showings, right? And walk through the property so that you know the inventory in the area. And you need to be logged into your MLS system every day and looking at what's going on in the market, and not just what's for sale, what's selling, right? Because it's going to allow you to really hone in the conversation, particularly if you're going to be involved more on the listing side, but even the buyer side, you got to know the numbers so you can negotiate. And that leads me to the last part, commission. And that's something that I'll be putting up and I can send out to you guys. We've made it pretty easy because commission is a difficult one for, you know, a lot of people, whether you're a day or 100 years in this industry, a lot of people struggle to really ask for what they want. We've made it really easy. You know, I developed a commission schedule that we send out digitally and or hard copy, or when we're sitting in front of them, it's sitting right there. It's one of the first documents that's on the table, and it's very flashy, and it gives them the option from a low to a high. There's about a 2% range of split. And then we allow them to make the decision what they want to pay, right? Because I already know I'm good. I've built that. So I'm good with whether I get the low side to the high side, and or what I can negotiate anywhere in between, depending on whether they're just selling and buying, or, you know, whatever they're going to do. Sometimes we've had clients do 3-4 ends with us. So I certainly then give them some commission benefit, right? And we negotiate that all the way through based on each transaction taking place. The only one thing I would caution anybody, somebody tells you they're going to do 5 deals, they want a commission break, don't do it, because the 5 deals may never be more than 1 deal. And if you gave them all that front load, you're going to be working for free in the beginning, and that is never a great thing. So, you know, it's an equal opportunity, frankly, guys.
Love it. Thank you. I'm going to pass that over to Jason.
Gary, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
I'm going to hurry things up since we are starting to run behind, and quickly introduce our final speaker, Amanda. She is a
Amanda's not the final. We have Amanda,
sorry.
We have Laura, and then we also have Daniel.
Sorry, my slides are out of order. Well, I'm going to introduce Amanda anyway. She is an absolutely amazing person, 7-time Icon winner out of Houston, Texas area. She has the #1 standard team inside of eXp Realty. That's out of 90,000 people. So please, let's put our hands together for Amanda. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. I am so excited to be here. So I'll make this quick. I really want to go over marketing. Once you finally get that listing, what do you do? So we're going to talk about listing syndication. What is it and why it's important? We're going to talk about, oh, perfect. Thank you for switching my slide. Leveraging a team and communication. So let's go to listing syndication. So what is listing syndication? So for me, when I go on a listing appointment, you know, I'm in a town where there are little cute boutique high-end brokerages, and then I work with a cloud-based technology-based company. And so what I use to kind of overcome that objection is I work with a tech company, and your house is going to be all over the internet. So my local MLS will put your house on about 125 websites, but my company also teamed up with a company called ListHub for listing syndication, which syndicates your house out to an additional 650 websites. So I kind of make the joke of make sure your house is cute because you're going to be all over the internet. A lot of those websites are international. So I know in Houston, about 12% of the cash deals are coming from Mexico. We have a lot of Japan and German money that's coming in just for their tax reasons coming in and investing in Houston. So it's really important for my sellers to know that they're going to be on the local MLS of, you know, fang.com and different places that are not the traditional local MLSs that we have. I also tell them about 3D tours. All of my houses get a 3D tour. What I think is important about that is, you know, it eliminates non-required showings. The worst thing you can do is get a showing request, get your dogs, get your kids, get out of the house, and then someone goes, yeah, I didn't realize there wasn't a half bath on the first floor. I'm not interested. And you just wasted an hour of your time. So that's really important to me. Little things like that during the presentation, if you tell a seller all of the things you're doing and why you do them, you'll really stand out. A lot of us make the mistake of, we do a lot of really cool things with our listings, but we forget to break it down to the consumer. This is why this is important. This is why you should pay attention, and they will hire you because of that. If you have a house that's vacant, it's not a big deal. I never pay for actual staging. I will pay for virtual staging. I know a lot of people on here use Box Brownie, which is like 35 bucks a picture. There's a website that I found. Now there's all this cool AI stuff, right? It's like taking over every industry. It's called virtualstagingai.app. It's 30 bucks a month, and you get 50 virtually staged rooms for free. And so I offer that on all of my listings, and it goes really, really well. Let's go to the next slide. But it is true, if you're not on the internet, what are you doing? I also talk to them about leveraging a team. When they're hiring me, they're hiring a team of agents. If you are a single agent on here and you don't have a team, create a team. It doesn't have to be a real team. You know, you are self-employed, you are the owner of your business. You need a CEO, which is you, but then you need a board of directors. So who are you working with? Who helps you with marketing? Who might be a girlfriend of yours who can show a house on a Saturday? Who's a new agent in your office that would love to do your open house? You can kind of create this leverage of teams. And what I tell them is we are the Henry Ford of real estate. So we've got a simple, repeatable process for every single part of the real estate, you know, transaction. You're not going to see me at every single part. So if someone reaches out to you or someone else is doing the open house, that's okay, because I can't be everywhere all the time. My agents are trained. They have script practice every single week. Their job is to turn inquiries into showings and showings into offers. And they know that they're not just hiring one person, which is awesome. When I talk to people, you know, in our higher end market, some of these people have 3 or 4 or 5 houses. It's just unbelievable. And they'll go to their house in Aspen or, you know, Colorado or wherever while we're selling their current house. And that gives me the opportunity to do multiple open houses. I don't have to bother them. They don't have to deal with showings. And I'll tell them, I will do an open house every single weekend until your house sells. That will get me the listing. What they don't realize is I don't ever have to do those open houses because I've got a team of agents in my group that are happy to do those to get buyer leads. I also tell them that with our group, we have lots of agents that are also marketing the listings. I know some people are like, oh, you know, if it's my listing, I don't want Jason to put it on the internet because he might get a buyer, or he might, you know, it's not his listing kind of thing. You're really missing out with that scarcity mindset. The more online content, the more lead capture, the wider net you're going to cast to be able to get those buyers. So allow all of those agents to market your listings. Worst case, they bring you a buyer, which is awesome. And our last slide is communicating with the seller. So what I have found working with all different types of personalities is the only time issues ever arise is when expectations are not met. So it's really important when you're sitting down with that client to say, this is what you should expect from me. This is what you're going to do. And this is what I'm going to do. I have some clients that will text me all the time and they will never pick up the phone and they hate emails. And so I text them, and that's just how we communicate. Others love a phone call. And if I email them, they don't check their email ever. So go ahead and ask them, hey, how do you like to receive information? What works best for you? Do you want to talk on nights and weekends, or you just want to keep it Monday through Friday? I also tell them that you will expect an update from me every Tuesday. We're going to do Tuesday updates. During those updates, you'll know how our open houses went, how our showings went, how our feedback is, any kind of targets on like, okay, we've had 100 people looking at your property and 15 people saved it. Anything that's going on with that listing, they're going to hear that on Tuesday. The reason that's important, first of all, Mondays are brutal, and I don't want to have a bunch of meetings with my sellers on Mondays, is if you don't set that standard, Saturday and Sunday after their showings, they're calling you, they're texting you, they're asking you how the open house went. They want to know the feedback. They will be so clingy. And so I tell them, unless you have an offer or it's Tuesday or there's a big issue that we need to address, you're not going to hear from me. And that's okay, because I'm going to be doing a lot of things on the background. So Tuesday update has allowed me to have lots of listings and maintain my sanity. So set that standard early on. Something else that's a really fun trick, tech-wise, is something called AdWorks. If you guys haven't looked up AdWorks, it's a specific targeted audience for social media. So let's say I wanted all of y'all to be excited about my listing presentation next Tuesday, right? I would get all of your email addresses. I would upload it to AdWorks. And every time you got on Facebook, even if you weren't searching for listing presentations or how to boost your sales in real estate, you would see my ad over and over and over. And it's really cheap. It's like $60. So what we do if we have a stagnant listing and we're like, oh my gosh, we've done everything, we can't sell it, we'll add our targeted audience. We'll include the seller's email address on that. And so they'll be like, Amanda, I know you're doing everything. Every time I get on Facebook or Instagram, I'm seeing my ads. I'm seeing my listings. I'm seeing you doing all these things on the internet. I'm sure you're spending a ton of money. What else can we do? And they really appreciate me because they think that I'm spending thousands of dollars on social media marketing when really it was less than $100 on AdWorks. So take advantage of the technology. It's out here and it's not going away. That's it. Thank you, Jason.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. And just a reminder for everyone out there, if you drop your email into the chat box, we will send you a recording. And with that being said, I'm going to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Laura Cooper. She has 14 years experience in real estate, is a 3-time icon, and has closed over 70 sides in just 1 year, which is kind of making my head explode just thinking about that. So with much further ado, please let's put our hands together and welcome Laura. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for letting me be here with y'all. So I'm going to go into specifically marketing your listing on-site and online. So we're going to start with on-site marketing and how I've kind of made the most out of the collateral that can be touched and seen at the actual property. So some of this I think goes a little bit old school and we may kind of take it for granted now, but I think it's super important that we still kind of stick to our roots. So we want to marry old school marketing techniques with new school technology. So when people first get to the listing, what is the first thing they see? They see your yard sign. So we're going to do everything we can to capture people's leads in person when they drive by your listing. You need to really take advantage of your technology and your system. So I know we mentioned before KV Core and the technology that you have in your CRM. Depending on what system you use, you need to figure out how to take advantage of QR codes and your yard sign. So every single sign that I put in a yard has a QR code so that any drive-by traffic can scan that QR code and they can get more information about my listing. But most importantly, that drives them back into my CRM. So if you're not familiar with the technology and how to connect the dots going from creating a squeeze page with your CRM, and then turning that URL into a QR code and then using that QR code physically at the property, join one of our classes that's coming up because I'm happy to share the exact step-by-step on how to do that. Don't forget that you have multiple clients, not just your seller, that are looking at your listing, the actual listing in person. It's your client, your seller, that needs to be impressed by what you're doing at their property. That's their first impression. They're not seeing all the stuff that's happening online necessarily. And then you've got their neighbors. They're your next client. And then you also have all of the buyers and agents that show up at the property to actually look at your listing. So in addition to doing this QR code on my signs, I also kind of go a little bit old school, and I will still put out flyer boxes on some listings. And I know that sounds a little bit archaic, but my trick is that I put the flyer boxes out and I put flyers in that have just enough information to tease people, but they have the QR code on them. So it's getting people to drive by, stop, pull the flyer out of the box, and then scan that QR code so that they can get more information, which might be the current list price. So don't put the list price on there. Make them scan the codes to find out how much that listing is selling for. So you've got in the yard, you've got the sign writers, and you've got your flyer boxes. Believe it or not, paper is really not going out of style. People still love picking up flyers on listings. I literally just got a text 2 days ago from one of my Rosenberg listings, and the seller, it's been actually a kind of a slow listing, but he was so excited. He was like, "Oh my God, Laura, all my flyers are gone. Bring me more flyers." So I thought that was really cool. So again, you want to tease them with a little bit of info in the yard, and you want to make it look, tech savvy and professional, but you want to make them scan for more info. So my last bit of advice for on-site marketing, and I think this is kind of for me, the biggest like golden nugget that really works, is do not forget that the warmest leads for your listings are the buyers who have scheduled showings. So above everything else, you are marketing to those buyers that do come into your property and the agents who are showing those listings. You want to help the agent help you sell your listing. Do not leave it to them to come prepared. We're all busy agents. We all get to showings and we have no idea about the property that we're unlocking. So I create a listing binder for every one of my listings. I have an FAQ document with what the buyer's top 10 questions about the property would be and those answers on that one page. And then I have a listing buyer that's got, your basics, your seller's disclosure, tax information, a list of seller updates and upgrades. So it's all right there at their fingertips. You basically need to dummy proof the buyer showings of your listings. And as much as I hate to say this, because I'm a buyer's agent, I work with a lot of buyers, but don't count on the buyer's agent to be prepared to sell your listing. You be prepared for them. So takeaway, I put QR codes, I put listing binders at every home, flyers. You want to do all these things because you want to impress your seller and give them top-notch service. You want to impress the neighbors because the neighbors could be your next listing. And then you want to impress the buyers and the agents because that's how you're going to actually sell the property. And that's what we're all here for. So let's move on to online lead capture. So I'll spend a little bit of time on this, but it's going to reiterate a little bit of what you already heard. So the key here is you want people clicking on your online marketing spots wherever you put the ads for your listing. That could be Facebook. It all starts with a good MLS listing. Let me say that first. MLS listings and photos have to be golden, and then you're going to use that MLS listing in your CRM to create online ads and squeeze pages. And that's going to drive people back into your CRM. So then you can work those leads and you can use all those techniques that everybody who spoke before me uses to convert those leads. So again, you're going to run those ads, have your CRM set up to automatically respond to inbound leads, no matter which source they come from. You want to let the CRM do the heavy lifting for you so that you have time to go get more leads and work on your listings and sell properties. My biggest advice in the technology that I use is in KV Core, I use the Property Boost feature, which is just running targeted Facebook ads. I have that set up on autoplay. So as soon as I have a listing go on the market, it automatically picks that up and it runs Facebook ads for me. I spend probably about $60 to $100 on average per listing, and I capture, I would say, 10 to 30 leads depending on the listing and the time of year. And again, those leads come in from clicks. They're put automatically into email campaigns. And then I do take it one step further. So when those leads come in, because again, I'm always going back to my first goal is to sell this listing and provide top-notch customer service. So I'm going to not necessarily treat them as just leads I captured. I really want to try to sell them my listing and see if they're interested in that first. So I'm going to reach out to them personally about that property. And then if that conversation leads into something more and it's not the right one for them, then that's whenever I've captured them in my lead funnel, and I'm going to continue to work them and nurture them. And then I also try to set everybody up on a search alert. If I can't get a hold of them, I'll go ahead and put them on a property search with similar properties to my listing, because I have found that of all the automated email nurturing, and I'm not sure if this applies to everyone else, but for me, I feel like the highest value content for the leads that click on my listing ads are these search alerts. And that seems to be what garners the most interaction for me with my online leads for my listings. And that's it.
Wow. Really, really appreciated that.
Yeah.
I hope everyone got as much out of that as I did. That was truly amazing, tying so much together. Thank you so much. Moving right along, we have Daniel up next. He is out of Nashville, Tennessee area, and living in Tennessee is his team. So if you could please put your hands together and give a very warm welcome. Let's light up that chat box, everyone, and please welcome Daniel. Woohoo!
Thanks for the kind intro, sir. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of everybody. I will be brief since we're running close on time here. So my thoughts are to generate more listings. You need to focus on being a local. So think about whenever you travel or whenever you go to a new place, where do you want to hang out, right? You want to hang out where the locals hang out. You know, it's kind of the rite of passage of saying that, you know, you're an expert in an area. So if you were to decide, like, how do I become a local of your town? And I know a lot of us move now. So we live in Nashville, and, you know, most of the people here have lived here for less than a couple of years. So part of our advantage is just knowing more about the area than everybody else. So a couple of ideas here, and I'm going to email these PDFs, or when the email goes out for this recording, this will be in there. So a couple of research topics. So think of yourself as a research expert. And if I were to quiz you on certain parts about your community, would you know the answers? So a couple of highlights. Demographics, you know, do you know the population density, the age distribution, gender ratio, income levels, lifestyles of the people that live in your area? What about some of the economic trends, the unemployment rate, the average household income, industry growth in the area? You know, these are things that affect home prices. And my goal here too is like to not just make you go out and regurgitate what you can find in Google, but just to memorize a couple of talking points where people think you're smart, right? I'm actually not that smart, but before I go into every meeting, I do a lot of research, and that helps my confidence. And the more, you know, you attract what you exude. So the higher my confidence level is up, my shoulders are back, my chin is up, it just attracts more opportunities to me. So I want to talk about real estate trends. So before any listing appointment, before any meeting with someone, I'm going to make sure that I'm always studying my trends. So we pull a report every month from our MLS. We study the, the absorption rates, the inventory ratio, list to sales price ratio, so that any type of question that I get asked, I mean, sometimes I will go, before I go into someone's house, I will go drive around the block, sit there for 20 or 30 minutes and just research, right? And just over prepare, right? If you over prepare for anybody that you're meeting with, you're always going to come across way more as an expert. So real estate trends. What about the infrastructure, the developments? Do you know the back roads? Do you know where the kids play baseball? Do you know the sports leagues? Do you know the adult sports leagues? Crime rates, safety, obviously that's important. What about the environmental factors? Do you know what hardiness zone that you're in? Anybody a gardener here? I became a gardener and a birder, or a bird watcher, I don't know what you call it, during COVID. So now I actually know the types of trees. We bought a landscaping company. I know the type of soil. I know the type of birds. My friends actually all make fun of me because I'm considered a bird consultant now. Story for another day. But anyways, when I'm going out and showing property, I can tell them, hey, these types of birds live in these types of trees, or over in this area, you could plant these types of plants. Or I can say this tree right here has sap on it, so you don't want to make sure you park your cars underneath. Just those little tidbits show the seller that I'm different than the other person that they're talking to. So have you ever studied the roadmaps? Like, do you know where the construction projects are coming? What are the fun things to do? Obviously, like when people are selling real estate or buying new real estate, they always want it. They think there's like a property brother there. Like they want it to be fun. So in your messaging and in your tone, make this fun. Make them want to work with you. Nobody wants to work with a fun sponge, right? We have a saying, there's certain people that are not allowed on our boat because they're fun sponges. So don't be that. When you're walking into an area, be proud of the community that you serve, be proud of the properties that you're listing for sale, and just be proud of like who you are and how much you know about the area. So what about like the tourist attractions? But here's another one. This one comes up a lot for me. It's what's the history of the area? Like if you had to pick one person that emulates, what an area is or what it's done in the past, who would that person be? Do you know who the local heroes are? Do you know your city councilman? So my suggestion for you, and again, I'll send you this list, but go through and just spend a day, break it down by county, zip code, kind of like just what I did is started a research document and we just provide this to our team, but every tab is for a different area and just anything you can learn. Just again, these are talking points. And then we go and just update these stats every month. And that way, anytime you're meeting with someone across town or maybe an area you're not as familiar with, you can just pull up your research document and say, oh yeah, the Oakland school's awesome. Mr. Ed, the principal over here, he's a great guy. He knows this person. And again, you're talking like a local, and that's going to make the consumer feel way more comfortable about working with you. So trees and plants obviously are fun. Traffic, commutes, community, culture. Like literally, if you were to write a what do you call them? Book reports. If you wrote a book report, this is before AI took over education. If you were to write a book report on your area, what would it look like? And really, you could go and put into ChatGPT and just say, chat, act as if you were a market research expert. What are the talking points that you would create to deliver, a marketing report to a seller in this community? And in 10 seconds, it can spit out 100 things that you can provide to people. So again, talking points. So switching gears here, a technique that we've learned that's working really well. We call this the lazy man CMA. And basically it's going through your database. This is really a sphere activity. And you would text someone in your sphere. And the text says something along the lines, I was on Zillow today looking at a few properties in your neighborhood, and I thought I'd check your Zestimate. They estimate your home worth X, and then you include a screenshot of the Zestimate, and you say, I have my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? And send that out to 10 to 20 people a day, and you will get an unbelievable amount of responses. It's not as good if they don't know who you are, like it's just some random stranger. But it will work. Another little technique is you could create a list of kind of your past clients and sellers, and then just do a video CMA on BombBomb and just say, hey, I was thinking about you today. Was looking at homes in the area. Thought I'd just update you on your value. Send that to them. They're going to really appreciate that, because right now, like what's the biggest question in everyone's mind is the market going to crash? Like, is my equity protected? So you offering value and just showing like, hey, I'm in the market. I was in your area. Thought you just wanted to get your opinion on this. It will work at a high level. So 2 thoughts there. Third thought, going into the holiday season, I was texting with Tanya last night, like hallelujah holidays. Right. Most realtors, I believe the fiscal year ends at Halloween. Right. And then they show back up in February, and hopefully they're still in business. But I implore to you, use the holidays to your advantage. Right. This is when everyone's in a good mood. People are cheery. People are grateful. It's an awesome time to just you have an excuse to reach out. Hey, Jason, it's Daniel. I was going through my phone today. I saw your name. Just wanted to check in on you. How's life? What's going on? Wanted to touch base. Haven't talked to you in a while. It's the perfect time of year to have an excuse, because we all, obviously we don't stay in touch as well as we should. And so it's kind of weird in April, like, hey, I was just thinking about you today. But around Thanksgiving, You've got that excuse. Hey, you remember we used to love each other. I still love you. Let's talk. So one of the little tricks that I do is make sure you say yes to every holiday party. Most of the people who are going to list in the spring are starting to talk to realtors and examine the market during the holiday season, right? It's top of mind. They're out there being social. People are going to ask you like, hey, how's the real estate market? They know you're in real estate. So before every party that I go to, I will do the numbers and do a CMA on that house before I enter the neighborhood. So imagine like if you meet me at a party, which, we're going to have a good chat. You meet me at the party and you say, how's the market? Instead of saying, oh, it's good, or it's tough, or, oh God, interest rates suck. I'm going to say, it's funny that you asked, in this area, prices have gone up, 8.6% in the last 12 months, which is just incredible. Like your home, just kind of looking around. I mean, it's probably gone up $89,000 in value in the last 12 months. Isn't that incredible? And they're like, damn, like, how did he know that? Right. And again, I'm just trying to sound smart, right? I'm doing my research before I'm going into these parties, and I've got my talking points. And I do that every year, and I will come out with multiple deals every single time because they say, oh, well, I'd really like to talk to you more. You say, oh, I'm not sure if you know your neighbor's house over there, it's sold for this and in this neighborhood. And I memorize the point part. So I won't just say 8%. I'll say 8.3%, or I'll say 6.7%. And they're like, dang, how did he know that? It's just magic, folks. It's just magic. So I will wrap up so we can have questions and ahas for everyone. I put together when you get this download, I put the Lazy Man CMA strategy along with some other circle prospecting and texting tips. So I hope you enjoy these and use them to your advantage. And again, just think the holidays is the time to create your momentum. Like this is your chance. I always think that reaching out to people earlier in November is better, because once Thanksgiving hits and then Christmas, like everyone's getting all the holiday cards, like be the first one out of the gate. Like, hey, I'm the first one that said I'm grateful for you this year. Like I want that noted in the record. I was the first one. So anyways, go forth and prosper, my friends. And thanks for the opportunity to speak.
A lot of you are having questions right now about what's happening with paying the buyer's commission. There are a lot of changes going on, but until those changes are made, we need to encourage our sellers to pay the buyer's agent's commission. Number one, increase profitability, right? Working with a buyer's agent increases the likelihood of their property selling. The second is it attracts more buyers. It can attract more potential buyers to the property, and it encourages real estate agents to show and promote the listing. This is where the 6 degrees of separation comes in. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but you should look it up. The 6 degrees of separation theory suggests that any two people in the world are connected by a chain of no more than 6 acquaintances. Okay. So as a seller's agent and as a seller, we have to think, how can we expand our reach? And that is encouraging the seller to allow us to work well with the buyer's agents. Okay. The third one is first-time home buyers. First-time home buyers make up 26% of the buyers. So the thing is a lot of first-time home buyers may not have money, right, to pay the buyer's agent their commission. And this is why we want to encourage the sellers to pay that. And I'm not going to go into detail, just keep following all the sites and we'll keep you guys updated. But there's so many ways to get the buyer's agent paid. There are a lot of creative ways to get you guys, if you're a buyer's agent, paid. So don't worry about that, okay? The fourth one is wider exposure. Buyer's agents are more likely to show properties with a commission being paid, which means their home is going to be exposed to a broader pool of potential buyers. Market standards. This is huge. Paying a buyer's agent's commission is the industry standard right now, and it has been, right? So what that does is, by not doing so, it may make the property less competitive compared to other listings that are offering an incentive. Excuse me. So encourage them to do that, because in some markets, homes are flying off the market. And other markets, they're sitting longer. Okay. And you're having to pay incentives, and you're having to, waive things and work a little bit different with the buyer. Okay. Efficient negotiations. A buyer's agent can facilitate efficient negotiations between the buyer and the seller, leading to smoother transactions, easier paperwork, and less paperwork for the seller. Here's the thing, you guys, like Laura was talking about, and Amanda was talking about it. Listing agents are so busy out there trying to list the property and get it in front of everybody. The last thing they need to do is be bogged down with more paperwork. The next one is legal compliance. When you work with a buyer's agent, they have professional representation. It reduces the risk of legal issues and disputes arising from the transaction. And it expertise in the market and encourages cooperation with other agents. So I hope that list encourages you to continue to encourage your sellers to work with the buyer's agents. And it helps you guys to understand the value prop that you guys as buyer's agents bring to the table. So make sure that you guys send us your email so we can invite you guys to all of the different classes. And I just really want to thank you guys so much for being here. And I want to thank you, all the speakers, CLG, Coaches Leadership Group. You guys all make us better. You make me better. And I just love being a part of, your lives, and just really happy the way that you guys are willing to share and collaborate. So I'm going to have Jason close it up.
I am going to have questions for only a couple of minutes, as we are right at the top of the hour. Do any of you guys out there have burning questions you want us to answer? Otherwise, we will shoot this all out to you via email. If you haven't done so, drop your email in the chats and we'll send you a recording, and we will go from there. So for me personally, it's knowing intimate details about your town, not just what the prices are, the averages, but what the price bands are. Some sides are still going up, others are going down. And oh, by the way, even though you're downtown, you're still likely to have bears knock over your garbage can this time of year. So use your bear-proof garbage cans, or whatever detail it is. It could be that, hey, by the way, this little notch right here, that was where a battle was fought during the Revolutionary War. So all sorts of great stuff out there. LP Mama, definitely one of my favorites. I use that every time I'm working with a buyer, and a version of it with my sellers. So use it. It's great. Great info. Feel free to reach out to all of us.
Thank you, all the speakers. You guys did a great job. I had a question is, in terms of, say, working with online leads or warm leads, at what point do you guys recommend asking for referrals?
So you know how in the transaction, there's high notes and there's low notes. And I always ask for referrals when things are hot, like when I've just done something and they've said, thank you, you're amazing. Oh yeah, by the way, who else is somebody that you know that I could be this amazing for? So typically it's like right after the contract, they're super excited. Right after like appraisal or inspection, like once you've gotten through those like big stages and they're like just really grateful and they're in a good mood, that's when I always ask.
So you're looking for Google reviews from someone. Don't wait too long to get that review, because you will never get it. So make sure you're asking for feedback, reviews, and referrals, exactly what Daniel said, when things are peachy.
And make it easy for your clients. So something that we did, because it can often be hard to find that link for people, we actually created a vanity URL, and then we embedded our Google review page into that vanity URL. So in our case, it's called reviewsbyyoumatter.com, and any of our agents can memorize that. And all they have to do is type that in, and it takes you right to our review page. So reach out to me if that's something you guys need a bit of guidance. Always happy to help with that, but just make their job easy for them, right? So they really love you.
Yeah, I have something to add to that too. You can also just send the link to the Google reviews, but don't send the link that takes them to 3 other links. Send them to the link where it shows the stars come up. As soon as they open it, they got to give you stars. That gets them to give the reviews instantly. Yes.
Everything was amazing, Tanya. I got so much from everyone. But one that stuck out, because I'm in a historical district, the tip about the flyer boxes, I still see them around here. And just the other day I was thinking, why do they use these? Because everything's digital now. And when I did pick one up, they didn't have the QR code, which that was such a smart tip. Just don't give enough, not all the good, the little T's in the QR tip. I think that was pretty cool, because I see them still here. I don't know if you guys still see them in our area. They still use the boxes. They weren't like that though with the T's. They just give everything. Just leave the price out of it. Thank you so much, everybody. It was amazing today. Thank you.
So Wayne was asking, like, let's say you're cold calling and is it too soon to ask for a referral? Or if they're like, hey, I'm absolutely not buying, is it rude to ask? And I just say, I'm a real estate professional. I love being a resource for other people, and I do this full time. So if you ever need an electrician or a yard guy, or when the appraisal district values your house too high and you need comps to fight it, I want to help and pick a number. 30 families this year, 40 families this year. I know you're not one of those, but you could be a connector for me. Who in your neighborhood has been kind of thinking about buying or selling? And then it's really easy to call and be like, hey, Bob from West Main Street said you're amazing and you're a neighbor and you've been awesome and you've been thinking about buying or selling. And so I always say, don't get off the phone without sharing your goal and your vision, and then asking to be able to help someone else.
Are you sure you're an introvert? I question that sometimes.
I've learned a lot for sure.
Laura, what was your feedback, Laura, on that?
Yeah, so I always say to people, if I'm having that initial conversation and I ask if they're already committed to working with another agent and they say no, I'm like, okay, well, that's great, because my job is to work super hard to earn your business so that not only you want to work with me, but you want to tell everyone you know about me. So I ask for it first conversation.
For the sports, because I do have smaller people, I guess I was trying to figure out what she called it so that I know how to phrase it properly.
Yeah, no, great question. We call it like a sports youth give back program. And you can use kind of that sport like logo or their team name. And you can even make it like Walgreens and make a little Canva and just print off like just little postcards. And then we'll leave them at the front desk when you walk into that sports facility. And usually we'll just partner. And if you talk to the owners, they're usually really open to it. So yeah, you just customize it and brand it with you and partner with them.
Okay, I was trying to make sure if it was more of a sponsorship or not. That's what I think I was trying to differentiate with. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, looks like we are wrapping up here. We are super excited to see you guys back, to have everyone go over their listing presentations. And first up is Amanda Whitespear next Tuesday from 1 to 2 Mountain Standard Time. I'm really bad with the conversions. Was that 3 to 4 Eastern Standard Time? So you guys, thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you. And thank you guys to the speakers. We look forward to seeing you guys crushing it out there. Hey, and if you don't have leaders that help you crush it, let me just tell you, here's a challenge. Every single one of these leaders, if they're in your town and you're not already with us or you need help, schedule a call with them. They're all touchable. They're not untouchable. Okay, so if you were invited here and you need more information, call them, schedule a call, and bring your friends. All right, you guys, have a good day. Thank you.